Welcome to Africa, my brothers. Yes, we have made our own path. Not to Wakanda. To the exact opposite. There is no power here. There is motherfuckers that look sickly.
This is a sick Negro.
Look at this right here. Danger's looking every turn. You better watch out. Today we run our hides through Resident Evil 5. This ain't Resident Evil, but just Call of Duty Zombies, my friends. Call of Duty Zombies is what we are here to talk about today. Not a bad game, but not exactly what we are looking for. We have a thick bad with us, but you win some and you lose some. It is what it is, my brothers. I'm not going to be talking in this accent, but I want to keep going with it. Because we're going to talk about one of the most controversial games of all time. That is going to be Resident Evil 5. Alright, I'm not going to talk in this accent this whole video. You already know this is not going to happen. Yeah, Resident Evil 5. Let's get into it. Before I get started, please drop a like on the video as it helps me out significantly. And click the subscribe button if you're digging what you've been seeing so far. I'd highly, greatly appreciate it. And, I say this every video. I need you to watch the whole video, because you know, facts. Don't be that. Just don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
Resident Evil 5.
So, before I get to the rest of the game, I want to mention the hilarious elephant in the room that was the controversy of Resident Evil 5. The fucking racism allegations, my boy. The fact that you played Chris Redfield, who is obviously a white member of the BSAA, that indulged in the shooting and stomping of heads off of numerous African individuals. This was big 2007 when the trailer was released. I can't imagine now. Imagine the outrage of how this entire thing would go down. Yeah, this was nowhere near intentional. The director even mentioned during the development that he wanted to make a more diverse group of enemies and characters, so I guess it kind of sort of backfired. I'm not gonna spend all day in this, but at the end of the day, he basically just said, "Kid, I hear what y'all saying. I get how y'all came to this conclusion, but I don't like the." I'm just kidding. He basically said, "I get how other cultures and backgrounds have this response, but don't be mad. This was not my intention. Play the game for yourself and see what you think. We're in the entertainment business. We can't please everyone, especially if we're not going to play the damn game in the first place. We're not here to state any political statements or opinions. We're just here to make good games." That's just kind of what he said. And to be honest, that's facts. I kind of agree with him. End of the day, man, just say, shut up and play the damn game. Like, he's not wrong. It is what it is, and let's just go ahead and move on with that. So you clicked on this probably because of the damn title. And to be honest, this is what I want to talk about the most for this game. RE5 gets a lot of hate, or has gotten a lot of hate because of this game is not survival horror. It's a tactical shooter. At this point, I've played through 7, 8, 4, and I'm playing through 1 as I do this video. And one of these games are not like the other. This Call of Duty Zombies. You know, in the first Resident Evil, in the exact start, the narrator's like, this is survival horror. Big doesn't exist anymore. Step 5, we are competing against shooters. We are in an online age. We have grown men cussing out small children through headsets. They don't want fear. It's about turning niggas with cheese nowadays. Get out of here. 5 was not like all the other games. Full-on third-person shooter. This is Gears with zombies. Infect. What makes sense about this whole thing is the director drew inspiration from Black Hawk Down. Yes, like the actual military flick based on the Somali Civil War. You see where the African setting kind of makes sense at this point. Even the damn filter of the game looks like the same as this damn movie. I swear he kind of basically copied and pasted at the end of the day. RE5's not getting the remake unless they make this 7. People often compare 4 and 5 since they both went to incorporate the action elements. However, 4 is a horror game with action elements. 5 is an action game with horror elements. In 4, I was moving with caution. 4 had me really on some soft boy, soy boy type shit. And 5, I was just really going in with no hesitation at the end of the day, let's be honest. No scary whatsoever. It doesn't help that this game pretty much only happens in the daytime and evening. The only section at night is with 2 bosses involving Ricardo Irving and the Uroboros Ohari, which is the Excella, and the Endeku, which is pretty much the El Gigante from 4. but under the circumstances of these battles, they aren't scary at all. What's funny is that the idea of adding Shiva was apparently add bring the fear of having to save your ally through a tough situation, but in my opinion, that's not really scary at all, but it just adds a sense of urgency and stress in the game, which isn't bad, but these kinds of elements are not what dudes are buying Resident Evil games for. Like, come on, bro, you already know, this is not kind of what up to par. We're not buying this game to be stressful, we up here to be scared. Survival horror, bro, like, come on. Put up the concepts. At some point, this game even felt like a f***ing Tomb Raider or Uncharted, with whatever these laser puzzles were in the literal ruins. I don't understand what that even, I don't know why they decided to go this route. This was not a good route. Anyway, it's whatever these puzzles are, the literal ruins after finding the source of the flower that Umbrella used to create the viruses. You see the kind of comparison with these two? Like, it's just not working. It's kind of weird. These are two very different kinds of games. They just went a weird route. I don't know how they go this. It's like the scariest part of this whole game was the Black Chainsaw Man. Simply because, let's be honest, just fast for no reason. And when you're getting jumped, I absolutely don't want to see the animation. If I get caught by him, I'm not really looking forward to what's happening. Actually, you know what, I'm lying. I take that back, because the scariest section of these went to these motherfuckers right here, because I swear they do not die. Has anyone ever these big ass? Like, why the f are they so damn tall? I thought they were just infected humans. Like, what even is this? I actually found out it's because of the flower. Yeah, so scratch that last part. I really don't want to throw this entire game in the trash, because it did have some redeeming factors. No one wants to count this as Resident Evil, which I completely agree with, but it is a very smooth, fun, well-paced tactical shooter. This leads me to my second point, in which I got kind of sidetracked. Thanks for watching. I say tactical shooter because as you go through the game, especially with Shiva as your ally, you pretty much keep her armed and with enough ammo and use her as an extra inventory. For me, I personally gave her 2 weapons and I kept it the same throughout the entire game. If I needed any extra healing items, grenades, melee weapons that I didn't have space for, it's going to her. I swear like 70% of this game is like ambushes. Some more intense than others, and for more complicated ones, I had to come up with attack methods prior, well, you know, if I died, essentially. This was also the case of normal boss battles. It didn't really help that upgrading weapons only affected Chris and not Shiva, so it wasn't like she was putting any extra damage on anything as the game progressed. Use her as needed. Feminists, don't come after me. I personally didn't have any issues with conserving ammo, at least it wasn't the case very often. I can safely say that the hall was knowing what to use and when to use it, and if you didn't have enough quick access to it, or none at all, you might end up getting fed to the dogs, my boy. As I said, RE5 does have some redeeming values. Overall, it got a pretty decent reception over time. I hate saying it, but I don't really think this game was judged as a game, and it was judged on the aspect of being a Resident Evil game, which, to be honest, is very valid. I mean, it's a Resident Evil game, so why would you not judge it as a Resident Evil game? But y'all don't have to agree with me here. The gameplay was pretty fast-paced, as I said. The mechanics are pretty clean, and they did a good job on keeping me interested on what the next chapter was going to throw at me. The inventory management was easy, and switching and equipping was a breeze, which you could actually do during the action. Not like how it was in 4, where you had to go into the menu every time you needed to equip something. Graphically, also, this game is very well done. But Chris is such a damn unit, bruh. Look how big this motherfucker is. You felt badass going into the succeeding section while he reloads his weapons with all this shit in his back. This came prepared. Terminator T-800 ass. John Rambo ass. Kenshiro ass. Maneuvering through this game was also developed phenomenally. Shiva always stayed with you, and when she wasn't, it was probably caused by attacks that she needed to complete away from you. And she did a fairly good job at defending herself, because let's be honest, it could have been a hell of a lot clunkier than it turned out. It really could have been. It's just sad it turned out we never got to see what happened to Jill Valentine after Chris risked his and Shiva's whole ass life over half the damn game. Because realistically, I kind of want to say this game was initially had a point and plot, but at some point, it turned into like a search and survival, search and destroy, search and getting my information, search and find, I don't know, search and find kind of game. So initially in the game, you had a purpose, you had an objective, but then it kind of just went somewhere else. But it brought closure. I'll talk about that in the later part in the video.
Well, isn't this one big family reunion?
This leads me to talk about the story for a bit. So the story of RE5 is, well, to put in the retrospect, concluded the events of Chris, Jill, and Wesker, to be honest, prior. Resident Evil lore is insane, and the connections are absolutely wow. Going through all of these, I'm actually kind of confirming in this video that I will probably have to play the spin-offs and non-direct numerical titles, because yo, it is actually insane. The amount of detail that goes into these stories that I'm finding out is crazy. Like, insane, bro. Like, yo. Side note, I actually just bought Code Veronica, so I'm gonna go ahead and play that at some point. So I'm gonna try and go through this really fast. So, you know, let's try and keep up. Always gotta wet my whistle. Always. Alright. So Chris Redfield, now working with the BSAA, was sent on a mission to investigate the news on the distribution of bioweapons in the city of Ijiju in West Africa. He then meets his partner Seva Alomar, where they arm up and get word from a man named Ricardo Irvin, who was actually the guy administering and selling the bioweapons to the locals. After getting attacked, mob after mob, seeing some proof of how these bioweapons are being inserted into the locals, they come across a decimated Alpha team who is the main contacts and backups were here, essentially. After defeating the BOW that slaughtered the Alpha team, they have a run-in with Shiva's buddy, mentor, Josh Stone, her mentor. That's what he was, her mentor. Not buddy. Let's continue. He gives them info on everything so far that's been going on. Chris notices an image of Jill Valentine, who is supposed to be dead up until this point. Chris is thinking in the back of his head, this I gotta find out for myself, but of course is commanded to continue on with the mission to capture Irving. They run into him, but he's rescued by a mysterious individual who, spoiler alert, is Jill Valentine. I mean, it's 2022, you kind of already know this at this point. They take out another BOW and is supported by a BSAA member, helping them escape across the box to find Josh Stone, but sees slaughtered Alpha Team. Taking out another BOW, they're ordered to return to the headquarters, but Chris explains one of the main reasons he accepted his mission was because he heard info on Jill possibly being alive. Let's take a break really quick. It's a lot. Chris gives Chevy an out, but she says, hell nah, I'm a ride or die, let's do it. Chris and Chevy come across Josh again, continue with their expedition through some mines and fields, and then finally manage to come face to face with Irving. He transforms to a BOW. Becomes pretty much a full hentai at this point. After defeating Irving, he lets them know where they can kind of find their answers and hints at a nearby cave, as well about Excella. The cave is home to an ancient civilization that guards a flower called the Stairway to Sun that's actually responsible for the bioweapons, that T-virus that's been cause of all the issues running through the Raccoon City incident, and the constant bioweapons throughout the entire series. They also find out that Tricell is Excella's company that took over for Umbrella's research while being there. They find the lab of bodies preceded by a huge BOW, the U8. Jill had a pod here, but apparently it was empty. They come across Excella in the flesh, but she sets the Uruboros on them. Note, this was one annoying ass boss. Like, it really took me some time to maybe 3 or 4 times to kill this motherfucker. Like, he was really annoying. The flamethrower apparently didn't want to work. It didn't want to work, but you know what? It worked at the end. Let's just continue. I might do a video on them later, but let's just continue with the story. They continue on and they run into both Wesker and Jill in person. Wesker mentioned that Jill's under control by a device by Wesker. They manage to remove the device and safely as they move on to chase Wesker afterwards. They find an infected Excella as she morphs into Uroboros. Excella was just a pawn in Wesker's Uroboros project, which he plans on dropping missiles filled with the virus inside of it all over the world to create a world of super-powered humans. Everyone else is pretty much just gonna perish at the end of the day. Yeah, pretty much Wesker, this is up his alley. He just said, y'all not strong enough. Y'all just gonna die. That's too bad. We not about that. After defeating Excella, Jill tells them about the serum they found. PG-67AW can nullify Wesker's ability to stop him if injected enough. They fight him, facing him 2-on-1, and once overdosing him, he runs into his bomber. They both board the bomber afterwards and continue their fight on the flight.
Less than 5 minutes. We'll reach the optimal altitude for missile deployment. Ouroboros will be released into the atmosphere, ensuring complete global saturation.
The bomber crashes into a volcano, and Wesker smashes a missile, becoming full Ouroboros. Chris punches a damn boulder, which is apparently one of the most infamous scenes in Resident Evil ever. Why did they incorporate this? I don't know, but you know, it's memeable.
Bruh.
This is one of the best scenes that came from this series. I'm gonna talk about scenes, but just this, I don't know. They managed to defeat Wesker. Jill and Josh arrived by chopper to get them the f out. Wesker makes one more appearance, but Chris and Sheva fires 2 rockets and finally sends him to oblivion. So that was that. As I said, Resident Evil 5 puts a lot of things to an end for Chris in the Wesker arc for everything that happened in the first one. There was also a ton of lore that was answered in this game, even if it wasn't received well. How things happened, how viruses occurred, Wesker's plans. There was a lot that was answered as far as lore, and there was a good amount of that was set up for a new arc. Resident Evil 6, 7, and so on. I thoroughly felt that 5 didn't have a lot of memorable moments, and when everyone talks about it, it's this bullshit Chris punched in the boulder, which is laughable at best. Meme worthy, as I said, for years to come. Meme worthy. Chris is a normal guy, so I don't know what they gave him the ability to punch boulders. Like, has he got superhuman strength now? Like, I don't know, bro. Let's just continue. As far as like cinematic, like amazing scenes and battles, 5 is pretty much a lost game. All in all, it's not really much left to say about 5. Simply stated, it's a good game, but not a good Resident Evil game. But I gotta give it props for its story closure, because it did an excellent job. And I don't know how games are judged, because, you know, even if it gets hate, it's pretty decently rated, believe it or not. Metacritic averaged it at an 80 out of 10, between 72 and 86 out of 100s. Across all platforms. Edge gave it a 7 out of 10. 1UP gave it a B+. Eurogamer gave it a 7 out of 10. Game Informer gave it a 9.5 out of 10. So it's a bit weird. With all these remakes, should 5 get a remake, or do you think it'll do well? Most people won't want it to be a scarier game at the end of the day, because it, you know, it just has to be. Following the realms of what 4 is going off of, they're gonna make it a scarier game. They would have to do the same thing for 5, because it really missed out on that entire, like, aura and atmosphere. It was not scary at all. Also, you know, maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they shouldn't. Because you already know how this is gonna go. You already know why. It's gonna have to be a completely different game if they go ahead and remake 5. It's gonna be a whole ass new game. You already know why. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed what you watched today, please leave a like. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and always share with your homies. Greatly appreciate it, as you know it helps me out a lot on the channel. I left my links down in the description down below. Feel free to follow me on those as well, as I'm always active on my Twitter and Instagram, talk about topics, new video games, wrestling stuff. Appreciate each and every one of you, and most importantly, be safe out there. This is Climax. Later.
More and more, I find myself wondering if it's all worth fighting for. For a future without fear? Yeah, it's worth it.